Breaking the gray.
All right. Hey, Sarah, I noticed something. I listened to all of our episodes. I binged our episodes over the weekend, and I recognized that in every episode I start with Sarah. I don't know why, but I just did it again. So, Sarah, how are you?
There you go. Yeah, that could be our intro from now on.
Yeah,
all good, Russ. Russ, yeah, all good.
That's good. It's almost like an exclamation question, like, Sarah, you're there. Yeah. Oh, thank God. It's like comforting to know that I get to sit with you every week and talk to you. We're yet again being joined by more of your Rebel friends. And today I'm excited. I broke the surprise and read your email to see who we're joined, who'll be joining us today. So I can't wait. So let's go. Let's just get into it because you don't want to hear me talking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm super excited too because we have Troy Casey, certified health nut. And actually, this is the only podcast guest that I don't actually know personally yet. So I'm just a fan of Troy. So I'm also super excited to have him on. So Troy, thank you so much for joining us. It was a bit of a cold call. So we really appreciate you coming on.
I'm grateful for you having me on, Sarah. I really appreciate the opportunity to share, any of my perspective or experience on this planet. So thank you so much.
That's super cool. Yeah, we've been going through in the series and kind of building up like a blueprint for health or well-being and kind of basing it on biohacking or just wellness. So we've gone through a lot of the fundamentals like sleep and breathing and all those kinds of things. So now we're into more, finessing or how you really kind of, once you've made those basic changes to your health, how do you really live your best life? So I think there's some of the things we'd like to go through with you because I've been following your Instagram and all your podcasts and you talk about a lot of things, but I see on there you have a lot of things about, I think you have like climbing your own personal Everest. Like how do you actually, once you've got yourself to a good state of health, how do you then have a meaningful life or connect with purpose? They're the kinds of things that I think I'm really interested in talking to you about because the health piece, like I say, the health piece is okay. There's simple things you can do, but this is probably a bigger topic.
Well, I think the most fundamental thing for a human being, and I postulate women are a little bit different, but for men, it's very important that they have their dream, their purpose, their legacy in place from their heart's desire, not their mind. The trap is in today's world is how will we monetize our good idea or that which our heart desires. And so there's, probably a very effective way of living a very uncomfortable life is doing things for money. And so eventually that catches up with us. And so when we have purpose, if, I live in Sedona, Arizona, if I want to go to San Francisco and I start driving towards Miami, I may get to San Francisco eventually. But if I want to be efficient, then it's a good idea to map that out. And so I think that we are programmed in the industrial age school system to chase paper. And depending on our ability to, do that, we get a little bit confused and sideways and going into careers that may not be beneficial for our own soul's growth. And so I postulate that women are a little bit different because I do believe that prime directive is to stay alive. And part of prime directive is to procreate. And I think there's nothing more important than a job of taking care of the children and nourishing the children. And so I believe that if women want to have a family, then that's a job enough. And of course, we've been sold the idea of feminism, not that, women's empowerment. Please, anybody that wants to do anything on this planet, do that. But let's really get focused back on the children and let's look at the world that we have created, especially in the industrial age, last 150, 200 years. And there's no victims, right? Let's not ever play the victim. We've created this circumstances that we have on the planet to awaken us to a higher vibration and understanding towards sustainability, or what I like to use, the term is biomimicry. Life creates conditions conducive for life. And currently, we are out of balance with that. And I know this because I worked in the Amazon as a medicine hunter, and I saw the deforestation and the destruction of our ecosystem. So I'm very keen. This isn't just about my little health and wellness platform. I'm very keen on transforming the world holistically, sustainably, and I do believe attainably. And I think everything's on the chopping block right now.
What does that mean, on the chopping block?
It's up for review. We are reviewing how we are living as a species. I believe that, well, it's written in stone in the Georgia Guidestones. They want to cull the population to 500 million. That means killing off 7.5 billion people. And if you look at the history of vaccines and the fact that all vaccine manufacturing companies are convicted felons. I work with Robert Kennedy Jr., and I've seen his dissertations on the Yale and the Harvard documentation on the efficacy and the safety of vaccines. And so you're looking at the thing that's being sold as a vaccine right now is actually gene therapy. And so these are all experimental. And if you look at Agenda 21, the Rio conference, the UN Rio conference in 1992, Agenda 21, and the revamped version, Agenda 2030, to update us before. Agenda 21 is about the 21st century. And so it's all written. It's also written in the COVID-19, the Great Reset. And so that is currently what's happening. And so I think we have to dig deep inside of ourselves and see if we want to be a number that's being culled from the population. And, I this is going pretty deep, pretty fast, but
yeah, I was like freight train, no conductor. We're going down this track fast. I'm on the train. I'm listening, but I want to go back to, getting on that train. And I think it's an incredibly important point, whether male, female, transgender, gender binary, purpose is important. It's the most important thing. And I think you said something that I've been working through very closely over the last 5 years in my life of resetting, not redefining because there's no definition, but resetting purpose, because I have no purpose. I had 4 kids and I was running, trying to take care of children and go after paper and pay all the bills I had, and my nut was high. But purpose is so important, and I want to get into that because I think there's something that people make excuses for not setting a purpose every single day. And I don't know, Troy, if there's things that you do to help people figure that out, right? To kind of break out break through the clouds, break through that gray area, and figure out what it is that is their purpose.
Here we go. So I have 3 very simple exercises in my book to figure out what the heart desires. And so the first one is, ultimately you'll have to read the book to get them all, but the most important one is to become the authority of your own life, the author. Write your eulogy. What is it that you've come to this planet? And imagine, your best friend up there on the podium, you're dead as a doornail. Like, really meditate on your own death. And what is the life that you've lived, and become the authority, become the author of your own life. And so that's one good exercise. Another good exercise is figure out what your nightmare is, because it's your subconscious ideas and that keep haunting you with anxiety and maybe even depression day in and day out. So it's best, just like facing your death, is to face your own nightmare and to become very clear, and then start to reverse engineer that backwards. And the statement that I work out with, I do men's work in my men's groups, is I am X, Y, and Z, creating X, Y, and Z. That's the basic template for that. And it comes from the heart's desire, not from the mind of how I will monetize that. And so when man needs purpose, man needs direction in your life, and that's going to get you out of bed in the morning, whether you lose your job or you get an injury. I mean, we all go through ups and downs in life, but when we're very clear on our mission and our vision, then we're unstoppable. So let me just use my legacy for right now. I am a humble, kind, and gentle man. My mission is to raise human consciousness and change all systems. My vision is clean air, water, soil, and equitable systems for all mankind in my lifetime. And if people don't know what an equitable system is, I have a one-way ticket to Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Sudan, or any other place that has natural resources that the industrial world covets.
Yeah, that's very clear. That's very clear and concise. I love it. It's almost like stoicism, isn't it? Like you're looking very directly and very clearly at what you want and what you don't want and what the comparison could be in another life. Yeah.
Well, we only have to look at our own creations in the modern world to know what the opposite of that is.
Yeah. The contrast is very clear there, isn't it? Well, I was just wondering, because you have this clarity of mind, what is kind of your day like? What are you doing to kind of stay in that place? Because that's quite a challenging place to stay in, that kind of very clear-minded place.
So again, prime directive is to stay alive. So I take care of myself every day. I practice what I preach. My book, the general underlying principle is the natural law of correspondence. As above, so below. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we're not healthy ourselves? So I get good sleep, I hydrate, I only eat organic food. I move my body every day in the ways that my 55-year-old body can handle. Mm-hmm. And I keep fresh and I keep my consciousness as clear as possible. My breathing mechanics are optimized. And I do various techniques to keep my vibration high. And so from there, I go out, I make sure that my children are taken care of. And then I make, 20, 30 videos a day, or I do a handful of podcasts, and then I make my own, my own videos. And then I communicate with my team, and I communicate with the people that follow my work. And so I have a full day, all day, every day. And I've done this blindly for 15 years. For many years, I was blind. I was just doing what my heart desired, sharing my videos and my content that I created in the Amazon rainforest, and answering people's questions. And lo and behold, 15 years later, we've got, one of the biggest millionaires and marketers on the internet, Gary Vee, and this is how he's talking on how to build a business. And I did that by osmosis. And I have that moving train now. It cannot be stopped. And so, and it wasn't always monetized, and it wasn't always easy. And so, but now I'm on the train, and I create so much content daily. My team, if I did nothing for the next 5 years, my team would be full steam ahead with work. It's like Tupac Shakur and Biggie after they died. They just created so many albums after them.
Yeah, exactly. What happened? But then what happened to Prince, though? I mean, Prince died, and I think the family went in the vaults, and we're like, I think this should have probably stayed in the vaults. I'm just saying.
Well, and he was also struggling with all his contracts, right? Because the contracts, and Kanye West talked about that as well. The contracts are slavery. David Chappelle talks about that as well. They own the Chappelle Show in perpetuity throughout the universe. And so, all these things are up for the chopping block, because no one's free until we're all free. And we're all embedded into the debt slave system. You ever notice how the money keeps getting devalued and they bail out the banks?
Yeah.
Yeah. I find a couple things you said interesting, because I mean, personally, have gone through a lot of this, and I think the nightmare thing is important, and I don't call it a thing to diminish its value, although it is your nightmare, so we should diminish its value, right? But I think there's something to say about not what's wrong with me, but what happened to me, right, in that nightmare scenario. And I think what I've found is, and I have, 4 teenagers, 2 20-year-olds now. They're not teenagers anymore. They're in their 20s. And I'm finding we're having a lot of discussions around that. And versus what's wrong with me, or, wow, I really grew up in a different scenario. And I think, I don't know if there's something that you work with when you're doing coaching and working with people around kind of identifying what happened to them so they can, I accept it and move on with it, right? And know that it doesn't go away, but they can move on with it, or other tactics that you have.
Well, there's 2 forces that are guiding us: yin yang, masculine, feminine, inhalation, exhalation, black, white, up and down. And so we always have to remember that. And the ancient sages have said, walk the middle path. And so I would postulate that your curse is your gift. And so we can look at it. And I teach my clients not to look for problems, because you'll find them. Look for solutions. We have the seeds of greatness and the seeds of darkness inside of us. And energy goes where attention flows. And so focus on that which you desire, which is part of the legacy piece, which I teach, which is my first chapter in my book as well. We got to get that piece there. Focus on your legacy. Focus on your seeds of greatness. The darkness will always be there. And you can juxtapose the darkness to fuel your greatness as well. And so I postulate that your curse is your gift, and you can learn from that. So I had digestive problems growing up as a kid: indigestion, heartburn, constipation, adult constipation for 20-something years. So I studied fasting, internal purification, herbal medicine, everything that I could. And then when I studied holistic health, I know that everything's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So I had to look into my emotional body, and lo and behold, inside my gut, there was all sorts of blockages that had to do with my emotional life and processing those emotions. And it took years. And so, one of my mentors said, you're either living or learning. And so I've been learning a lot over the years.
Brilliant.
It's so true. And, the greatest artists in the world were motivated by what haunted them, and I think I am making a shift in my life to be a full-time storyteller. And a lot of my stories come from the hauntings in my life and the things that I had. And I'm grateful for those at this point, right? I'm grateful that I had those moments in my life. I'm curious, and I want to go to biohacking, because it's something that Sarah and I spend a lot of time on. Sarah is a red light expert. We spend a lot of time talking to red light experts and her fan base. And I'm curious, we talk a lot about measuring, and you've talked a lot about understanding yourself and eating. What do you do in terms of measuring yourself? Do you have a quantified version of yourself that you're tracking, or is it more a feeling?
I look in the mirror, baby. The mirror never lies. And then, it's an internal, how do I feel? And if I feel crummy, I jump in a cold body of water. If I'm not feeling optimal, then I go out on the trails, or I start doing some push-ups or some air squats, and that gets my serotonin and dopamine. So I can change my state at any given moment. Maybe I need some food. Hey, maybe I need some sleep. Newsflash. Maybe I need to get rid of my phone, get out on the trails, ground into the electromagnetism of the earth, get the sun on my body. And lo and behold, your problems shift all the time. Cold body of water, grounded to the earth, some nutrition, jump in my far infrared sauna. Hey, it all works. Epsom salt bath, the old school. Let's go old school, right? Epsom salt bath, put a little borax in there, some minerals, and get a good soak in. You can change your state at any given moment.
Yeah.
It's understanding your state, right? And Sarah and I have talked about this too a lot with a lot of experts around understanding the state and identifying and knowing what's really going on in your body more intuitively, or actually measuring it more scientifically, and being tracked down in your trackers and your Aura rings and making sure you have those numbers. But you're so in touch with yourself. You're saying that you just know when you're off, and you can turn yourself back on in the direction that you need to.
Well, the eyes are the window to the soul. So look no further than the inflammation in your face.
Yeah.
Because the inflammation in your face is.
What are you talking about? I always lick this puffy. What are you talking about? I was swollen mess.
Yeah.
It's okay though. But Troy, what is the name of your book? Just so everyone in our audience can go grab it. We'll put links up on our blog as well.
It's #RippedAt50, A Journey to Self-Love.
Yeah, well titled. Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
well titled. I'm almost 50. But I mean, Troy, you're inspirational, to say the least. And how do you keep your spirits up? I mean, do you have a shitty day?
Man, I'm being sued by my ex-wife, and she took my children away from me. And I'm sure I could cry right now. So the pain's always there. The pain teacher is always guiding us. The question is, are we listening? It's only, my prayer for the longest time is that I find more humility and gentility in my life. And the challenges, they're tough right now. But this is my prayer. And I know that this is what I prayed for. And so I can only face myself. I can only face myself in any given moment. So.
Well, Troy, I have been there as well. And all you can be is be there, right? And that's the most important part. And a phone call and a text and all those things are right there, right? And presence doesn't mean standing in front of them. I found that being present with my children isn't necessarily as good as, they're not paying attention to me half the time when I'm there with them. It's being on the phone with them, being there when they need you. And I find children to be my biggest inspiration and my motivator, because every time I look at my kids, I'm like, why am I doing what I'm doing? I want to do what I really want to do, and my purpose, and attack my purpose, because I want to show them that that's the point of this, right? And I think you're showing them every day that's the point of this, of that your purpose is more important than answering to your nightmare, right? And feeding your nightmare more and more. I'm curious about eating, and I don't want to completely segue out there, but I think eating is something that as we come out of COVID, I think people are really going to be struggling with a few things. One is we're all going back to restaurants. We're going to start eating restaurant food again normally and sitting down, but our controls are all lost. And I feel like, when we get stressed, we're so close to our kitchens, we're up there and we're eating, or we're so close to eating shitty food because it's there for us. How do you start a track of eating healthy?
Well, it's great that you asked that question, because I've been involved with a superfood company for the last 8 years. Before that, I was working with an herbal company, a superfood company from South America, from the Amazon rainforest. And so, we have a 30-day program. We get hundreds of thousands of people on this. In the last 8 years, I've helped over 20,000 people. The company's helped over 100,000 people. Halle Berry takes the products. The Kardashians have done the cleanse that we have. They're organic products from our farms delivered straight to your door. And so it's a 30-day cleanse, and 10 days of it is a 10-day juice cleanse intensive. Get rid of food addictions, sugar, tobacco, alcohol, everything. Pull you off of that. Get you feeling better. Fasting is the oldest trick in the book. I think fasting and sleep is the number one way to heal the human body. This is calorie restricted fasting. And so it's nutrient dense. It cleans the liver, the kidneys, and the colon, and it resets the metabolism. Once we've cleared the slate, you look in the mirror, people are looking and feeling better. My average client loses 25 pounds in the first month. And so once you're looking and feeling better, then I can get you on the Qigong. I can get you into the grounding, out into the sun. You'll listen to me more. And so the biggest part of it is getting people to feel and look better, reduce that inflammation, clear up the gut. The gut microbiome is so important. Mm-hmm. People are thinking they're eating food, but they're eating glyphosate-laden food that's compromising their gut microbiome. So within 30 days, we set the record straight. We get you looking and feeling better. And so that's the best way. And we're flourishing in COVID. We're totally flourishing, and we're available in the EU, the UK. I've got a big team in the UK. I've toured over there multiple times. And North America, Canada, and United States. And so I'd love to work with anybody out there that really wants to jumpstart their health and I started out juice fasting as a Versace model 30 years ago. I was sitting in Milan, bloating, constipated, my career based on my looks, and didn't know anything about nutrition. And that's when I got into fasting, herbs, juicing. And 30 years later, I'm still juicing every day. But now I just juice 2 scoops in water. It's all dehydrated and out the door. There's no 45-minute juicing schedule for me. And so, I make nutrition simple for my clients.
I think that's the hardest part is keeping it simple. I think we talked to Kristen Wenzel, who is Warrior Woman, and she does the work that you do with women. And I think she talked a lot about being a traveling business person and a marketer, and always being on the road and having to always chase after and finding the right food and traveling with snacks.
Yes.
Keeping it simple is so important, and keeping it simple because it's incredibly complex. I mean, my Instagram, when I go on Instagram, I am being bombarded with, because they know that we do this podcast, I'm being bombarded with all these different, protein powders and everything. I just want to keep it simple. I want to keep I have my wife and my daughter here. I just want to keep the pantry simple. So when I go up there, I have my nuts, I have my nut butters, I have the things I want, but I don't even know if that's right. I have no idea if it's right. And I think that's the part where knowing thyself, but like knowing what's right and thyself at the same time. But what is right?
I think we'll have to get you on a schedule, Russ. We'll get you on a program. We'll get you on the... Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So
we know this. Come on, sir.
So I have a video on my YouTube playlist. It's a 36-minute video that goes through all the nuances and caveats of nutrition. And it labels, we need to talk about quality, not quantity. What are you actually eating? Mm-hmm. I teach my clients to eat whatever the hell you want, as long as it's real food, and eat when you're hungry. Your mobility, your movement should dictate your caloric intake. And that's it.
Yeah. Nice and simple.
Yeah. Sarah, I'm asking this question for you, but I don't want to overstep my bounds here. But Troy, do you get early morning light? Do you get sunrise light? Do you get up to see the sunrise?
Do you know what? I was going to say,
I do.
The first time I
Sarah,
thought about Troy, why I'm such a big fan is because when I was in Santa Cruz, and I used to do naked sunbathing because we had a little terrace out the back where I could do that. And there was this thing on Instagram of butt chugging sun. And Troy was credited with it, like in a big picture on Instagram. And I thought, yes, I totally agree with that. Like sun everywhere. I totally am down for that. And that's when I started following you, whenever that was, on Instagram, because I thought that's just brilliant. I know it was a little bit of a silly Instagram, but we need the sun. We're creatures, we're not born with these clothes on, We're meant to be exposed to the sun. Our bodies are totally covered in light receptors. And so,
melanin.
Yeah, I loved that. And my friends, of course, thought I was a nut. But yeah, if I'm a nut, why wouldn't I follow the certified health nut? So yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah, and it went viral. So obviously it has some application energetically. And so I postulate the sun and your breath. These are the first forms of nutrition. Yeah. Look, my muscles get beefier and stronger, and I look better when I go out and work out in the sun. And so I get copious amounts of sun. I'm always in the sun.
And do you do the sunrise thing? I think that's what Russ is asking, because I've been pumping this on Russ and Paul for the whole time.
No, but I am up early, and I do try and get out more, but consistently. And when I lived in Los Angeles for 25 years, you live in an apartment or apartment building, and you kind of got to go out to get into the sun. So I haven't made that a habit over the years, but I know it is important. And I just get as much sun as I possibly can.
Yeah.
That's my strategy.
You look nice and brown. You look like you've been out in the sun.
Yeah, well, I live in the desert too. I mean, it's about to get really hot here.
Nice.
So
yeah,
it's
we were just in Sedona. My wife and I went to Taos for a while, just to get spiritual, and we drove through Sedona, and
lovely.
it's a beautiful place.
I love Sedona. Place. Yes, I'm very jealous. Yeah, I love it there. Very cool.
Yeah, I have a men's retreat in June coming up in Taos, New Mexico, and I just love the Southwest in general. I mean, it's just a magical place. I remember a Native American saying, I think, if you want to heal the body, go to the ocean. If you want to heal the mind, go to the mountains. If you want to heal the soul, go to the desert.
Yeah, that's lovely. I totally agree with that too.
Yeah, it's we're coming towards the end, and there's one thing I want to ask you about. You have a video up around ayahuasca, and I'm curious. I have friends that have done it, and friends that have gone through experiences, and friends that just threw up and fell and hit their head and didn't get the experience. But I'm curious because you have you have a shift in human consciousness piece attached to it. I'd love to hear just a bit of the experience and what you walked away with from it.
Well, ayahuasca speaks to me in the visions of knowing. And I had 3 very profound visions when I was down there. Yes, it penetrates the liver, the gallbladder, the intestines, and it can make you puke and purge and poop, which is a beautiful thing. And but more importantly, it penetrates the nervous system where we hold our beliefs. And so, I've done it quite a few times in the Amazon rainforest, and more recently, I've worked with some Colombian shamans with the yahe, which is very purgative of the bile ducts, and it is a magical brew. It's not child's play, but love and gratitude is the end result. An open heart and gratitude for everything and everyone is really the message that the overall message that I got. And I had 3 powerful visions. One was the spirit of my daughter came to me. I was not in a relationship, and she was my second child. And then the certified health nut was born there. I was doing stand-up comedy at the time. I was living in Hollywood as an actor. And I had all these natural medicine studies behind me, and certified health nut was born right in the middle of the Amazon. The final vision that I had is that humanity makes it from the precipice of ecological disaster that we find ourselves at. Now, I don't know how that shakes out exactly, but I know that we make it.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should end with that, because I think that it's the most important thing. Your empathy and your compassion, your love that you share. I think Sarah and I took a lot away today, and I hope our audience does as well. Wish you the best of luck. We hope you can come back and visit us again. I'm hoping that when you come back, my beard looks like a little bit more like yours, and my face looks a little less like this, and a little less puffy, and a little more in shape. But book is purchased. I'm going to get on the train. I greatly appreciate it. What Sarah and I do now is we do a 7-day challenge. We'll do a certified health nut challenge in the next 7 days, and what we'll do is report back on it and then post the podcast. So if you have any thoughts for us to tackle, it won't be ayahuasca for me. I can't get down there, but I think I really appreciate it, and thank you for your openness and kindness.
Yes, thank you. Really, really appreciate it, Troy. So lovely to meet you at last.
Thank you so much. I'll send you my Qigong playlist, and you can pick a couple of those moves out there, and you can do that. I challenge people to 100 days, but you guys can do it for 7.
Oh, I do Qigong
Beautiful.
Anyway, so that's super cool. You might have to think of something else, Troy. Think of something that will challenge us, but the Qigong will do that anyway, so that's cool.
Send it to me. I'll do the Qigong. Yes, I'll do it. Thank you.
Qigong. Okay, thank you, Troy. Take care.
Okay, God bless. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Whew. Wow. I mean, that I don't even know what to say about the 7-day challenge that we got from our last guest. Can you speak for me? I'm at a loss for words.
From Troy, well, what a fascinating character, eh? I'm really grateful that he took the time to come on the show. He really was a character. And his challenge was to do the Zen swing Qigong movement,
Yes.
which I hope you've been doing. I've heard rumors you've been doing it on the beach.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm near the beach, and I feel stretched. I feel spiritual. I probably pulled a muscle, but that's okay. It's because I'm my muscles are still a little out of shape. But yeah, I mean, it was a powerful session. I think all of ours are powerful in their own way. I will say that he's leaning more towards the male side of the spectrum of biohacking, and we want to welcome all, but I want to lean a little bit towards the fact that we have probably one of the most important women in biohacking on our podcast, and I want to
thank you.
Spend a little time talking about why are the women not as exposed in this industry as the men are? I mean, we've seen articles and stuff, but I think it's time. It's time for Sarah Turner to take the helm and be the lead here. Yeah.
Well, there are actually a few great female biohackers. We've had on the fabulous, Molly, and we had Kristen, we've Deanne. So there are some ladies leading the way, but I think maybe it's like, traditionally, it's been a lot about technology and measurements and all of those things, which are maybe typically, more of a male pursuit, perhaps. Certainly the conferences are male dominated, and a lot of the marketing seems to be aimed at men. But I think really that's just, again, we always come back to responsibility. There's no one stopping anybody doing anything.
That's right.
If women want to go and do any of these hacks, there's no one stopping you doing it. And actually, a lot of the events are very inclusive. The Finland one, especially, they're very much, there's no judgment there. You can do what you want. There's some fabulous female speakers. But yeah, I think Troy is also, but he's kind of basing his thing from a lot of about men that have difficulty showing their emotions, so maybe that is a thing, and there is a place for that because it's something that's not talked about either.
That's right. And it's interesting. He really did show emotion in our session, and I feel for him. I mean, it's a situation and it's heart-wrenching, and to be able to share that and expose it and say it out loud on our podcast. I mean, that's freeing, and it's also, and you're right. And that's powerful. And I think, I appreciate him being on. And I think when you are doing things like Qigong, and when you're doing things like we have an upcoming episode on Reiki, we have a lot of talk that we've done around mindfulness and remote healing. When you start to tap into those things, it's okay to emote, right? Yeah. And I think there are lots of reasons why we don't emote, right? We have, we're all are scarred from our childhood, even though we may have all had a great childhood, but we carry the scars with us. And those are reasons maybe why people don't feel free to emote. Maybe they were judged for emoting, or maybe their older sibling got more attention than they did. Who knows? But it's okay. It's okay.
There's a lot of cultural conditioning. Like you said, there's a lot of gender-specific conditioning. There's a lot of stuff going on, and Troy, he genuinely was proving that this is what he does. This is how he lives his life. The exercise that he showed was all about kind of liberating yourself and basically just doing what you think is right. So we're going to put the exercise up. We're going to challenge our listeners to do the exercise. It's relatively simple, but it's also about the mindset. You free your body, you free your mind. So, I thought he was totally great. That's say he has very specific views on women and how they're maybe being cast into a certain role, and how, maybe women should be happy and not going to work and being at home and looking after the kids. And it's an interesting viewpoint.
But I do ask this. I mean, one thing that you have identified is the quantified self, and we've talked to the Kristens and the Mollys and the Deannas, and we've talked to Troy, and we've talked to Abel, and we've talked to, others. Is there a difference? I mean, is it, for our listeners, is it important for you to find a coach that's gender specific, or is it okay to, what are there differences there? I mean, should we identify them, or should we say, maybe not. Maybe there aren't. I mean, red light and what you eat, are those things that we have to think about when we are, in a gender position? I don't know.
Yeah. I think there are, and I know this is a very controversial topic right now.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to sort of be judgmental or saying you're labeling people, but there are biological differences between men and women, and I think that should be acknowledged. And I'm not saying that people have to make any external choices based on that, but from the point of view, if you want to get the best from your biology, it serves you to acknowledge biological differences. And not that you need a specific coach, but there are coaches who may know more about women's biology and like people like Troy who may, he's focusing on men's psychology. I mean, personally, I do think people should be able to do whatever they like, present however they like. And I certainly don't think that a woman's place is in the home anymore. However, I think that there are differences, and acknowledging them if you're doing it in a way that's helpful for people and for yourself. What's the point in denying something that's there? So yes, and I think we probably will talk about it a little bit more in the series when we get into things. But even I know later on we're going to be talking about fasting, and it's one that we're kind of delaying a little bit because I for one am totally obsessed with my food, and it's something that I'm like, okay, I'm gearing myself up. But there are certainly gender differences in things like that. How do women store fat? How do you metabolize food? What does it mean if you do it at different stages of your cycle? Is that relevant? Right. So I think we will get into that. Of course, the psychology piece is, again, very fascinating, and it's interesting to explore those cultural, psychological, and biological differences.
There are definitely biological differences, and I think we're getting into the biology of our body versus the social aspect of our world, right? And I think that these two things are very much coming together in the biohacking world, where it's like you're combining this world of mindfulness and wellness with a new form of science, and knowing thyself and quantifying thyself means understanding your cycle. And my cycle is different than your cycle. I can't make babies. Those are things that my body biologically doesn't do, but we all have, and we get different cancers as well, right? And I think, and we get different ailments, and so I think it's just this combination of understanding that a human is a human, but we have to understand our biology. And I think there are places. I mean, Troy focuses on men, right? And he focuses on really hyperflexing in that area, and that's great. And I think, as does Kristen, and as does, and Kristen's the woman warrior, right? And so I think those are great positions, but I think it's also important that it's understanding yourself, right? And I think you are who you are.
You are who you are, and you can be whoever you want to be. It's just take responsibility and do the things that are going to be best for you, your biology and your psychology, however that looks for you.
Yeah, for sure. Well. We're not going to solve this in our 7-minute wrap up here, but we are going to say Troy is an amazing figure, another one of the amazing biohackers, the certified health nuts. He's at troycasey.com. He specializes in everything from qigong to nutrition to you name it. He lives in Sedona. He hikes all day long.
He does a lot of workshops. If you want to go and check him out, I'm sure that if you look at his social media, there's a lot of cool stuff going on there.
I will say he's one of the more beautiful humans we've spoken to. I'm comfortable in saying that he's one of the more beautiful ones we've spoken to. A fantastic beard. He's cut. He's ripped. So if you're in Sedona and you see a beautiful bearded man with no shirt on, that's Troy Casey. Give him a high five. Yeah. He was a Versace model. I mean, he said he was a Versace model. I mean, come on. They don't, So anyway, thank you again for bringing another.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you for bringing your beard. And yes, thumbs up.
All right. Well, I thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak soon.
Yes. Take care, Russ. Bye.
The Rebel Scientist podcast is a Breaking the Gray production, created by Russ Eisenman and Paul Wood, hosted by Sarah Turner, music and sound editing by Logan Shea. For more information and other fantastic podcasts, visit breakingthegray.com. That's gray with an E, breakingthegray.com.
Breaking the gray.